I'm going to send this so we could, have it posted. I don't know if there's anything that magical on it, but okay. So I think I put the basic definitions. I did a little research. The goal to make an audience laugh or smile, and it says the art of interpretation is to be regarded as recreating the story, and humorous interpretations designed to test a student's comedic skills. Um, I just wanted to say from the beginning, I think that, yeah, I mean, overall, the whole idea is we want our audience to smile at some point. I don't necessarily know or think personally that they have to be cracking up the whole time, because I just have seen so many successful HIers that really the audience is dead and they're still doing very well. So I almost feel like laughter is just one factor, but and it says smiling, so I guess that's important. What do you guys think when it comes to this goal statement? Do you think that's mandatory to do well to get your audience to laugh and smile?
Looking at the national finals over the last several years, I think there's a big tendency to go for those kinds of big laughs, actually. There's not much subtlety that goes on in HI, at least at the national level, where I want to ponder that thought, and it's pretty much all belly laughs, in my opinion, which is fine. But yeah, there's definitely the laughter more than the smiling going on, as far as I can tell.
Okay, that's really fair. Anybody else?
Well, just from my personal experience, this is just a weird thing that I've noticed about myself that I don't really notice in anyone else, but it's the strangest thing. But I will, when I'm conversing with somebody and they say something funny, I'll laugh. But if I am watching a performance, no matter how funny it is, I don't always laugh out loud, but I can really enjoy it. And I don't know what that is about me. Maybe it's that I don't want to disrupt their or make noise while they're doing something. I don't know, but it's the weirdest thing. So sometimes if I were to judge an HI, if I weren't like belly laughing, it doesn't mean I didn't like it. It just means that that's just how I watch it. I don't know if anybody else out there is like that, but it's just something about me that and if I were to judge, it might be interpreted as, oh, she didn't think anything was funny.
Oh yeah, judging is completely different. No, I won't laugh at all when I'm judging HI if I can help it. No, you're right, absolutely.
I feel like sometimes the students have a misconception that it needs to be a script that makes teenagers laugh, and they're looking for like just it's just my opinion. I think we have to always like look to our audience, make sure we remember who's judging it, and maybe we need to make sure it applies and it's universal if we can. It's hard to both teenagers and different age groups, but so frequently I feel like students will come to you and say, well, this I don't find this funny, but I feel like maybe A, they don't understand it at first, or B, just because it doesn't mention TikTok doesn't mean it's not funny. I have no clue what TikTok is other than Trump's banning it. But no, I think the point is, I think we have to look for things that are universal maybe and apply to a lot of people. So back to I'm just starting with some of the real basics. And I do think we are testing, right, our comedic timing. I'm not exactly sure. We could talk about this if we could teach comedic timing. I don't think I can. And we are looking at how well it says character development. And we could come back to what exactly that means, because I think Michael was alluding to that sometimes when you're watching these, at least on the national level, we start wondering the believability, I think Michael was saying, but he could correct me, of some of these characters. And so when it comes to character development, you know, maybe that means something different in humor than in a DI. I think there's different philosophies when it comes to that authenticity of the characters. I sort of have noticed a trend that it's helpful if you have one character that's more real. But a lot of times, the cast of characters that surround the one normal person seem pretty outrageous, as if they're more Saturday Night Live and not necessarily all authentic. What do you guys think when it comes to believability and character development? What do you think that means?
Probably throughout the course of the story, the character should learn or realize something. I think that's where you get the connection to relating to everybody. The character learned a lesson that we can all relate to in some way.
Yeah, that makes sense that we're connected. Kim said in the chat room, we have to like and care about the character. So she connected it to Dakota no matter what. Michael's agreeing, and that there needs to be some likable character. Yeah, because if we're annoyed or it doesn't connect, then it doesn't matter. So I could see that. But, you know, I think there's this discussion in HI. Maybe it's because we all have different rubrics, but do the characters have to be realistic? Sometimes you'll see ballots that say characters are fake, not real enough. But then other times you're going to see characters that we've never seen at Starbucks do really well. And I guess the question going forward is, how believable do these characters need to be? Anyone have a thought on that?
I'm thinking about the 2019 finals, and there was the girl who did the Scooby-Doo spin-off thing where she was just telling us basically, look, this is, you know, you're watching a cartoon, and with the context, those characters were believable within context. It was a parody of Scooby-Doo, and so there was a little bit of believability in the sense that, yeah, I recognize these characters. Most people who are familiar with comics would recognize these characters, but not real life per se. Jordan, does that make sense? So you know, within the context of how the thing is set up, there's believability for that level, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay. I was going to put someone on the spot if that's okay, but I would love to hear Dave's perspective. Dave, when it comes to authenticity in HI and people saying, oh, the characters were so believable, how does that connect to being competitive? Do you see that as important in HI?
Sorry, I had to open my microphone. You know, I kind of, if I had a paradigm for humor, I would probably say I'm one of those blank slate judges. I want to look at the performance, but I will say, and I'm not saying this to kiss up when you listen to the whole thing, my all-time favorite humor in recent history was, and they talked about it in the last session I was in, Leaving Iowa. Because I thought, other than maybe the daughter character, I thought all those characters were real, and I could see the drama of their humor, and I thought that was a real strength of the piece. That being said, and I'm not saying this is the opposite end, but it's also a different kind of appreciation. I really enjoyed your NSA piece. I never got to see it in Indiana until the final round. I thought the Matthew McConaughey and Barack Obama characters just really struck a note with the audience. And I thought that was a great connection because you get that idea of a universal appeal in a new context. So, you know, I don't know that there's anything about believable or not believable. I think I want something that intrigues me. And maybe that's, if that's not a blank slate, that would probably be my paradigm, so to speak.
That
That makes sense.
makes a lot of sense. So you know, it's not like it has to be one way. And you're saying that if I'm restating it right, you want to be enthralled, you want to be fascinated, you want to be on the edge. It has to keep you the whole time. And you kind of said there's different approaches, like the Leaving Iowa was grounded more in realism. Is that right?
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, and so that makes complete sense. I mean, I'm definitely I can see how there's so many different lanes, but maybe a lot of it, when we try to talk about casting in a second, is maybe it's matching the right script to the performer. So like Dave mentioned, that we ran a script called the NSA's Guide, and the performer, who was a senior at the time, and had a lot of experience in HI by the time he was a senior, we were aware that he could do impersonations. And I just figured that out in class, being with him. And I thought, let's like play to that strength and using impersonations. And then we noticed that those impersonations connected to the script. So I feel like a big part is matching the competitor's strengths when you're selecting the script, and also being aware of what your competitor's strengths are. So, okay, let me try to keep going. So we talked a little bit about the definition, and let's talk the rules. I just looked this up quickly. Maybe we all know the rules. 5 to 10 minutes, 30-second grace, NSTA, IHSFA, it didn't show a grace. Transitions, you can use them to clean up profanity. It said to make it more clear. You can't write in a line just to make it funnier. Next, here, I think this is more interesting casting, when we're trying to figure out like who that HI. I mean, obviously, so many students would love to throw their hat in the ring for Interp, but they don't always have it right as far as what fits them best. And, you know, a lot of times it takes a while for me to be able to figure out if someone can handle HI. I can give you an example. I had a student a few years back personally, and maybe we could all relate. She was silent in class, and then even talking to her, when she did not have a larger than life personality. But then when she performed, she lit up and she could do all sorts of voices. I had to really discover that. She didn't show it normally. But then I would say that most of the time, I can tell that my HIers are funny people in real life. I think most of the time, they're either, I've had students that I would say are Jon Stewart, Steve Colbert, sarcastic type kids. I've seen students that are, you know, the teachers tell you that they drive them crazy, and then they tell you, you know, you don't want them for speech and debate because they'll drive you nuts. And then I tell them, yes, I do. I have good health insurance, but yes, we want people that drive us nuts, because a lot of times the HIers are larger than life. I guess that's just my perspective. And I'm interested in what your perspective is. How do you figure out who might be better suited for HI than, say, DI? What makes the HIer unique? Any comments?
This is kind of a strange comment for the event, I think. I hope it's not, you're not going to think I'm crazy, but I want somebody who's athletic, because those character pops, especially those quick pop scenes, are hard to do. And also, I think humor characters, and this is maybe not the word athletic I would want, but it's a physical event compared to drama. There's a lot more action with the whole body, I think, whereas drama and humor tends to be facial and emotional. I'm not saying humor isn't facial and emotional, but the whole body tends to be more involved in the performance. So like I said, I don't know whether it's athletic or coordinated or the ability to carry off some physicality is something that I look for, in addition to the crazy things that I think we all look for in humor kids.
That makes a lot of sense. Any other comments?
Yeah, I've got one. I think that humor students are often, they've got to be thick-skinned, sometimes more than competitors in other events, because in HI, you will encounter a judge not reacting the way that you would expect them to react if you're doing well. You know, if you do a drama and the judge doesn't cry, that might just mean the judge didn't cry. But if you're doing your humor and they're not laughing, they're not smiling, they can get in their heads very quickly and think they're not doing a good job. So they've got to be thick-skinned.
Okay, that's very interesting. Any other thoughts?
I was going to say, this is Fred. I agree with Dakota. I think that I just typed in that funny is subjective. And I am the kind of, I like adult humor. So I'm like, I don't coach humor on our team and hate when I get a humor ballot because I like adult humor. I want to hear the profanity and all that stuff. So it's hard for me at times to sit and watch a humor round and not laugh, you know, because I don't laugh because I might not find it ha-ha funny, but internally I'm like, oh, this is cute. I really like this, but my face is still going to be straight because it doesn't tickle my funny bone. Does that make sense? So it's hard, I think, for a kid who does humor to perform in front of someone who has a different sense of what is funny. So I agree with Dakota, what Dakota is saying. You have to have that thick skin, that wall to say, I don't care if these people are laughing or not laughing. I'm going to continue to do my thing.
Oh, yes, Linda.
I think.
Oh,
Go
no,
ahead.
Linda, I'd like to hear from you.
I was just going to say, kind of along with that, kind of the same lines. I think a humor kid has to have a lot of energy, instead of taking their energy from the audience, because sometimes it's just you and the judge, and in this virtual world, that's going to be a little more the case. So I think it has to be a kid that can bring a lot of energy, and it also speaks to the athleticism and everything, but they just have to be able to go in there and go all out with their interpretation, no matter what, whether anybody's laughing or reacting to them at all.
That I think just makes perfect sense as well. Dave says, as a judge, the better they are, the more focused I become to study and appreciate what's working. Yeah, I tend to see that during HI, maybe this is a lot of events, but I don't necessarily react a whole lot, because when I'm really interested, I'm just really thinking and appreciating. And I like what Fred was saying too, when Fred said how funny is subjective. And what Dakota was saying as well. I think that I have noticed at tournaments, people walk out of HI rounds and they're really critical in this sense. How was it? They weren't that funny. How was it? I wish they were better. I hear that a lot, but I don't necessarily feel that's parallel when people walk out of a DI round. I don't know. That's just my perception, that when people walk out of a DI round, oh yeah, it was good. Or yeah, there were some powerful performances. But I hear a lot of people, from my experience, walk out of HI rounds going, they were laughing. I didn't find it that funny. I don't know if you've had that experience, but I think Fred has a point. It's so subjective. Ken said he's noticed something in Indiana. Audiences of competitors seem to be a lot less likely to laugh in Indiana than other areas around the country. I guess he's saying our audiences are maybe different. Dave says that's true, Ken. I think it's competition. Okay, that sometimes our audiences hold back their laughter. Well, I would hope to think that judges get it. I think they do. And so I don't know what you guys think, but if the audience isn't laughing at all, and a lot of it deals with maybe it's because who's in your room, your competitors, a couple parents. I always feel that judges realize that and they don't necessarily get swayed too much by the laughter. Does that sound true to you? Or do you think that you can manipulate a judge or stack around by cracking up?
I think kids think that judges are impressed by audience response. I'm not saying that I think we are, but kids think that. They know the truth because they're in the rounds and that's their perspective in some cases, not all.
I just have a comment. I was wondering, do you think, sometimes I know when I used to judge a lot, especially if it was humor, that the round had to get warmed up in the sense of like maybe that first kid, the piece just really wasn't funny. He really wasn't or he or she wasn't funny at all. And it kind of like dampened the room. And then you get that second piece where that kid may be just straight on target and people are laughing or whatnot. And then throughout the rest of the round, everybody feels like it's okay to laugh and whatnot. Sometimes I found that in rounds, that it just takes time for that round to just warm up and start moving, that kind of energy.
Yeah, does anyone feel that way? I could see what Fred is saying about how maybe your speaker position affects the audience. Okay, well, I think that's an excellent point. I think for the sake of time, I'm just looking at my time, I'm going to go a little quicker over some slides, and then we're going to watch a performance, because I think maybe that's the best part of this session, is after we see a performance, our thoughts. So I may skip a little bit for the sake of time, because it would be cool to compare notes. So casting, we kind of talked about already. And as far as the winning performance, and then we can look at the performance and see, if you use any of this to grade it, how clear is the story? Does the performer show enough of a range for you? When it comes to the big question, should he have or should she have 3 characters, 6 characters, 11 characters? Maybe it just depends on the student. How original is it? Are you looking at that going, I've seen that so many times and it's just a Xerox? Or are you saying that it's novel? And I really want to go back, because I think we used that word earlier, connection. I think that in every event, it really comes down to, no matter if it's the speech and debate stuff or people that are in public life, I think it's, do you connect? And maybe that's stating the obvious, but some performers seem to have more of a natural ability to make that connection. And then maybe there are strategies that we can do to help students connect more with the judge. And I don't know if connection means charisma, if connection means vulnerability, but I do think on this list personally, they might all be related, but they all go back to, are you connecting? Okay, let me ask just a question from this list here. Might be a strange one. If you had to rank all these different qualities, what's number 1? Anyone have a thought?
I think appropriateness is number 1, because if you're inappropriate, no one's going to think that's funny. Have you seen some of these scripts? I mean, some of them are like racist or sexist or something. And sometimes kids will say, I want to do this one. No. No, you're not doing that one. Some of them are just offensive. And I consider myself pretty open-minded, but some of these are just offensive. I don't know if you have ever run across that or not.
I think it's very attractive for kids to, it's easy for kids to be attracted to a script that presents characters in a stereotypical kind of way that they can all latch on to. And that, to me, is one of those things that I was talking about earlier, that goes for the laugh instead of for the development. And that's why, if I were ranking these things, Jordan, honestly, I would rank connection as number one. Because I don't want to be turned off by your characters. I want to be attracted. It's okay to have good guys and bad guys. I get that, even in a humor. But I want to find some level of connection with at least one character.
Excellent. Any other thoughts? Okay, we're going to keep pushing forward. Physicality, and I took this from the speech and debate resource. I think it was Mr. Wyckoff, and I remember watching this in high school, but I use it still when I'm coaching to help kids understand different positions of their body. And just to sum it up for the sake of time, he's talking on that video, which is on the speech and debate website under characterization. He's talking about how you can morph your lower half, your torso, your shoulders, and up into different positions. And, you know, he basically makes a point that every character needs to be from the foot up different. And that's something maybe we can kind of focus on here. I tend to say each character should have a base position, probably because that's the way I was taught, that when you flip to that character, I can look at you and know exactly who it is. And it might be just the way that you're holding your arms. It might be the way that your feet are placed. It might be, I put a few other things. I should be able to look at your face, I feel. And if you're on mute without saying anything, your face tells me which character you are. Maybe gestures, and maybe I put trademark because I think we all have mannerisms in real life that we do. I rub my hands through my head every single, class, and my students always make fun of me. They're like, there he is. I always go like this. Are there certain things that the character maybe can do? And maybe it's just one signature mannerism that defines the character. On this list of physical aspects, what do you guys think? What's key?
Well, Jordan, I would agree with you. I think that the base position is important. I think that's where you definitely get the clarity, and knowing who's speaking and when they're speaking and whatnot. And I just think that's just so important.
Thank you, Fred. Any other thoughts on physicality? Okay. I would say, a strategy I use is like every character has an odd quirk or weird thing they're doing. How do I discover these weird quirks? That's not simple to describe. I look at human behavior and like things that we do. I try to see things that are weird habits that we all do. And then I throw them out as possible quirks to kids. They bring them up to me. They'll say, oh my God, is it just like in Monsters, Inc? They just know so much popular culture. And they'll say, the character does this. Does that connect? And they make all sorts of connections. So I think what I'm saying is a strategy. Maybe we all do this, is I'm like, find a base character, a role model. Look at a movie. A lot of times I use like animation stuff. And I use that to get even the voice ideas. So I'm getting ideas for voices through YouTube videos. For example, you can quickly, this is more vocally, but you can go to YouTube and type in a man of 100 voices. And you can see a guy who like flips through Toy Story voices. There's these strange, weird YouTubers. I think they're like HIers in disguise, or their whole point is they go through all sorts of voices. It's like the Richard Little of YouTube. And I'm always like telling kids, hey, let's see if we could find a voice that works. And Mr. Mayor, this character, movies I don't even know. And then they'll flip it up on their phone and I'll say, let's play with it. I think a lot of HI, maybe this is everything, is trying things on like their clothes. Okay, here's a voice. Does it work? And we're constantly tweaking and changing. Physicality, the base position, like Fred was saying, is what I try to get down at first. And a lot of it has to go with the personality of the character. If it's the Fonz with a lot of bravado, maybe the shoulders are back. I took that from the video. I think it's a great example. Maybe if it's this really shy character, Maybe just naturally we know your chin would be down, but I think it's making sure that your entire body is engaged with changing the characters. If it's a woman, maybe this is not correct to do, but I see a lot of people do a teenage girl where the weight is on one side. They want to show that teenage girls are, always putting weight on one side. I do think HI character positions can be based on both real life, but sometimes they are stereotypical. So when I'm watching competitive HIers, I do think there are stereotypes that are being used. Let me ask a question about that when it comes to, and maybe this is something we already said, when it comes to stereotypes. So it's HI character, surfer guy. Yeah, dude, it's HI guy. All these I don't know if you call it trope characters. Mean girl, vocal fry. Oh my God, what do we think? Are we saying stay away from all of that because it's just not sophisticated acting? Or do we think that you need to kind of go into the cliche stereotype at times? What's your thought? Okay.
That's a really tough question, to be honest with you, Jordan, because we've seen it all, right? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it's offensive. So, you just got to watch with a critical eye and do your best, I think, and trust those coaches and judges to give you good critiques to help you know when you've crossed a line or let you know what's working.
That makes so much sense. Thank you, David. I think you're right. I think there's no clear-cut answer there. And I think, like you said, we have to be careful, look at critiques. I think all of it and above seems to work. But I see sometimes ballots will come in and just a suggestion when they say these characters are stereotypical. Why do you have to do a surfer guy? That doesn't mean to change it just because one person said it. I'm just giving a thought that, look to see what a lot of judges are saying. Because everybody in HI seems to be, there just are so many different opinions. Like Fred said, HI is subjective. Okay, back to, I think what I'll do for the sake of time, I just want to make sure we get that performance in. We don't have to watch the whole thing. Let's watch a clip of it, and then let's see what our judge ballot might have on it. All right, we're just going to watch a few minutes of it, and then we're going to discuss.
Hey, Cheryl, honey, baby. How's dinner coming? Oh, God. It's on the table, Richard. Sorry, what were you saying? Hi, Dad. Hey. Olive, how's your dance routine coming for your pageant? It's good. When are you going to let me see it? Well, that's up to Grandpa. She'll show you when she's ready, Richard. Oh, what's this? Oh, chicken. Every day it's the damn chicken. Dad, if you want to buy your own food, you are more than welcome. Hey, Dwayne. How's it going, buddy? Oh, love you too. Okay, everyone listen up. Listen to me, okay? Do we all remember when Olive was in the Little Miss Sunshine regional qualifiers? Well, they just called and said that the girl that won died. Oh, I'm just kidding. She got disqualified, something about diet pills? I don't know. But that means Olive has a place in the state tournament. If you couldn't tell from the everything about me, I am not a pageant queen. Because who in their right minds would go to a competition dressed in an uncomfortable suit for hours solely for the entertainment of others? And for what? A ribbon? Maybe? We as a society have become obsessed with winning. It's embedded into our everyday lives. Who's going to be valedictorian? Who's going to get that big promotion? Who's going to be homecoming queen? When we equate the value of an activity to the placing we receive, we miss the point of why we do it in the first place. Because we have fun. Because we love it. because our parents make us. Little Miss Sunshine by Michael Arndt. Little Miss Sunshine! Dad, did you hear that? I won! By default. Oh, Cheryl, how are we going to afford a trip to California? We don't have the money. I didn't think that she'd make it either, Richard. But I told her that if she did, then we'd go. So, we'll drive. In the Miata? How are we going to fit Grandpa? Oh, my bones. Grandpa doesn't have to come. What? Screw you. I coached her. I showed her the moves. Oh, I have to be there. Fine. I'll drive the Volkswagen bus. Well, what about Dwayne? I was told explicitly by the doctors not to leave Dwayne by himself. He's coming. Olive, come here. Now, there's two types of people in life. Winners and losers. There's no sense in entering a competition unless you think that you can win. Geez, Richard, all you had to do was say good luck. Oh, Dad, it's not about luck. Luck is the name that losers give to their own failings. It's about wanting to win. Willing yourself to win. Olive, do you have what it takes to win, Little Miss Sunshine? Yes! Dang it. Well, everyone, we're going to California. Oh, it's too cold in here. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm tired. Dad, please, language. Olive has the headphones in. She can't hear me. Dwayne, that's your name, right? You getting any right now? Okay, Dad, please stop. Jesus, you're what, 15? You should be getting that young stuff. Dad, I will pull over. So pull over. You're not gonna shut me up. I lived 80 years. I still got Nazi bullets in my ass. We know about the Nazi bullets, Dad. You're just like those doctors at Sunset Manor. I paid my money to get in. I should be able to do what I want. Well, you started snorting heroin. So? Mom, Dad, I'm tired. Fine. Oh, what a lovely motel this is we're staying at. Yeah, all right. Here's room 11. Grandpa, you're 13, and Dwayne... You're coming with us. Does anyone need anything from the store? Richard's about to head out. Oh, Richard, could you buy me some porn, please? Something real nasty. Dad, I'm not gonna buy you porn. Richard, please. Grandpa, can I sleep in your room tonight? Fine. Just make it 2 slushies then. Sure, Oliver. I've got an extra bed and you could still use a bit of practicing. Oh. Grandpa, I don't want to be a loser. Like Dad always says. Whoa. Olive, you can't lose. Olive, a loser isn't someone who doesn't win. A loser is someone who's so afraid of not winning, they don't even try. You're gonna dance tomorrow, right? Well, then you're a winner. You know what, Olive? I think that you and I are gonna have fun tomorrow. Grandpa! Mom, Dad, pee-woo, pee-woo. Thanks, Doc. Damn it, Dad. This is gonna be so expensive. Mom, is Grandpa dead? We're gonna have to do Little Miss Sunshine next year, sweetie. No, we have come 700 miles, Cheryl. I'll be damned if I'm not making that competition. Well, what do you suppose, Richard? We can't leave him here. Oh, we're not gonna leave him here. Hello and welcome to the Little Miss Sunshine National Pageant. Our final competitor today is Miss Olive Hoover, all the way from New Mexico. Tell us about yourself, Olive.
I'd like to dedicate this performance to my grandpa. He taught me everything I know.
Oh, how sweet. Is he here? Where's your grandpa now?
In the trunk of our car.
Okay, well, take it away, Olive.
Cue the music, please. Do 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 do.
Boom, chicka, boom, bow, bow. Boom, chicka, boom, bow, bow. Boom, chicka, boom, bow, bow. What is she doing? Oh my God. Holy shit! Excuse me? What the hell is your daughter doing? Kicking ass is what she's doing. Go, Olive! Well, they're dropping all the charges on the account that you never enter your daughter in a California beauty contest ever again. But I have something for you, Olive. There you go.
Oh, thanks, Dad, but I don't care about winning. I just like to dance.
Well, you were amazing, sweetie. A real winner.
Oh, you did such a great job, honey. Oh, thanks, guys.
Let's get out of here. And say, we got to get ready for your next pageant.
Time, and I think we have like 15 minutes left, and I would love to hear, like, so far, if you were judging this and what might be on your ballot to begin with. If anybody can jump in and share your reaction.
Well, one of the first things I noticed, and I'll say right away just so everyone knows, Heidi, one of our competitors, did this same piece last year, and Noel and Heidi faced each other a lot. Majority of the time, Noel did outperform Heidi on the ballot. And now that I've seen a little bit of his piece, because I hadn't seen it till now, I noticed that one of the main differences between his cutting and Heidi's is that he's made the dad the main character. So the story, I assume, as it progresses on, is about the dad's growth and him learning to accept that his daughter doesn't have to win. Heidi's cutting was about the daughter trying to win and please the dad. So right away, I think that his character is more likable. I'm bought into it.
Okay, thank you, Dakota. So the importance of having a likable protagonist. Any other, I put up a sample ballot that I found from NSDA. Any other thoughts that might be on your ballot?
Jordan, I was going to say the one thing that I think that you guys do well, and I've made this comment before in other settings, is that your characters aren't 2D. They're not flat. The characters are what I call 3D. They're human beings. And I think people, when they coach HI, they tend to make their characters very flat. They don't make them human. They don't show the different ranges that we all have as human beings. Whereas with drama, we do more character study, more character development. What's the backstory? I don't think a lot of coaches at times do that with their HI pieces. And so the characters are very just flat and cartoonish in a sense. Does that make sense? Whereas I can actually see and relate to, that father and whatnot.
Okay. So authenticity and characterization, the development of the characters. And you kept using the word relate. Okay, I see what you're saying. Relatable, real. Any other comments or ideas? Anything that may have bothered you? Because that really could help us. If there's anything that you would say, well, this annoyed me or this needs to be worked on.
I have a bone that I often pick with HI kids, and that is they try to put in too many words. I would have preferred in the teaser to have fewer words and a little more physical development in this particular one. I know he's done quite well with the piece, so it's hard to say, you know, things that I would do differently, but it felt sort of rushed and as if he was trying to shoehorn in a lot into, I don't know, about a minute 90 seconds or something like that.
Okay, pacing, too manic.
Yeah, a little bit.
I felt like it was going by very quickly. And if I wasn't already familiar with the Little Miss Sunshine story, I might have been confused. In fact, I'm pretty sure I would have been. But because this was a movie, some years ago, and I saw it and enjoyed it very much, I remembered the story very clearly. And I think if I hadn't seen that movie, I might not have known. But I think some of it was just the sound over a virtual performance. That's something I didn't realize was going to be such a factor, but I think it will be.
Very good point. How virtually it's a new world out there, and we could talk about that. Kyle said he's comparing it to the movie, just like Linda was. I think that's a big risk when you do a movie that you're going to have all these comparisons going on, and that might affect it. Any other comments?
I put a response in during the performance. One of the things that, excuse me, one of the things that I appreciate in almost any Interp event is the opportunity to see the speaker in the intro. And I thought that introduction really cared about the audience and trying to bring pieces of a little bit of a manic story together in a very brief amount of time. I also appreciated the fact that right away it struck me as his intro got going that he was clearly talking about competition, and here we are at a competition setting. And that's why when he got to the line about we do it because of our parents, I instantly, that moment struck me. Probably wouldn't have laughed out loud in the round, but I definitely would have had a smile on my face because it's so real. That's what our activity is. And sometimes we lose track of what our goals are. Didn't we already talk about that during the piece or during our presentation that we were doing? We were talking about the connection and the idea of getting to an audience and relating to it. And here this kid is in the competitive situation doing a piece, and the two of you, three of you, however many worked on this, all saw, I think, without coming out and hitting us over the head with it, that this had a message for our activity. And that was kind of cool.
Okay. So the social message, and I think you said like really getting to know or see the real performer, and yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. These are great comments. I think Michael said the intro could really make or break a piece. Michael, is there anything to add to that? Like, how so?
Well, I want that's the way in which the student frames it. And that's where some of the deeper analysis can come into play in HI or DI, any kind of interpretive event. And that's really where a student gets to show how much they understand the characters in the piece as a whole and how it applies to me, to the audience.
Okay, excellent. When it comes to critiques, if I could share just some that he would get quite frequently, he would get critiques that dealt with his range. And particularly, they would say, looking for a more realistic little girl character in that performance. Maybe see if you don't need to use the falsetto voice. A lot of his critiques were vocally. Voices blended between sometimes certain characters. Did anyone here when you were listening have issues with vocal distinction or...
Yeah. He lost the grandpa voice for a second there in the intro.
I thought the grandfather voice was almost a little more comical. Like I've seen the movie, and it was kind of difficult to distinguish between his performance and the movie's performance because there's so many competing things going on in that scene, so many things that are being set up for later on, and you know, using the father as the protagonist kind of was kind of difficult for me because he's not a protagonist. He's, you know, almost working against the child throughout the entire film, because she's just wanting to compete and he's all about winning, which is almost kind of his undoing, which is why it's so great when he changes at the end of it. So I guess my question would be, how do you distinguish from a piece that is known like that, like a movie that many people have seen, I guess would be my question too.
Does anyone have an answer to that?
This is an ongoing question that I think I've heard discussed in so many different places through my career. You know, the intent of the movie might be different than the intent of the cut, and whether it's okay for a student to present a comedic piece dramatically or a dramatic piece comedically. You know, can you make a humor out of Othello? I don't know. But the cutting is the thing that, to me, should involve the student and something that they bring out of a piece that maybe the rest of us wouldn't have brought out so much. So, but I agree with Kyle. It's really hard when it's super well known and popular, to reorient the direction in which you want to take a particular cutting. But I think that's part of what we want to encourage students to do, is to give a new reading to something that might be very familiar to us.
And I'll just add as a footnote, maybe, he had a lot of comments that would say that, what Michael just said. He had a lot of praise throughout the season that said, I never would have thought about putting the cutting together like that. So I think that connects to what you were saying, Michael, like the uniqueness, and judges seem to reward him for that. But you are right, Kyle, like it's a big risk, and you'll get judges. That's what, like, you know, they're comparing, and they might say this wasn't like the movie, or they'll say you're basically going against author's intent. And I think you get it both. You get both comments. And as far as it's a risk, I've noticed on the national scene, Kyle, they're choosing humor movies, because movies are a big trend, but they're choosing ones that most of us have never heard of, like these obscure movies. So, for example, at least I haven't heard of most of them. There was this movie called Kicking and Screaming, and it was an amazing HI. And I thought, I must have missed this at the theater. What is this? And I looked it up, and I think it was Will Ferrell, and I love Will Ferrell, but I think they're choosing the more obscure movie over, let's say, Anchorman or old, whatever, you know, some of his more popular movies, Elf. I think they're doing that because of what you just said. So people don't necessarily have that comparison. That's my opinion.
And I thought it was very good too. I saw one where they did the first scene from Pulp Fiction, and it just crashed and burned very, very quickly. So, you know, I guess that was just kind of my main question, is if you do a movie, is it good to do one that's kind of a little more obscure that a lot of people haven't seen in that way?
I would say yes, because I think that it's really challenging. But then on the other hand, I'll just throw this out. Let's say you choose the movie Pinocchio. I think it's a movie. No, I think we love it and adore it. So if you bring something new to it, but we're like, oh my God, this is such an endearing story, I still think that could work. So I don't know if there's a clear answer to that. I think we enjoy seeing things that we know. So if someone's doing Star Wars, but it's their own spin, I think some people are like, yeah, Star Wars, they love it. And then other people might say, well, that's original Star Wars, you know. So any comments on Kyle's question? Should we use movies that people know, movies that people don't know?
Well, one of the things I was thinking, and I was glad you mentioned author's intent in there, because I don't want to get into a huge discussion of that, but how many times with movies have we seen conflict between the author and the director, and it goes public because the director is taking the author's work in a different direction?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have J.K. with the whole Harry Potter series, who had extreme control over the portrayal of her characters, and then other authors who have no control because they don't have the ethos due to her book sales that JK had with her book. So we had the same discussion. We had a boy doing an Adam Sandler piece last year, and it was one of his more popular movies, and it had been done previously. And we kind of tried to take it in a new direction. And the student and I had this conversation about, okay, do you really want to make this look more like the movie? Or can we bring a new slant, which is advantageous, which is disadvantageous? And you know how students kind of plateau and jump? Well, he had one of his performance jumps. And I think it was just because of the conversation. And I'm not sure he actually in his mind had reconciled everything, but he, I think, came in with a more open-minded perspective to the performance. So, it does pose a challenge to take something that's already been out there, because invariably the judge in their mind is going to go in with a preconceived notion about it. As a judge, I try to wipe that out of my mind and look at it as a blank slate, because I think that puts, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong on a part of a judge, but I think it puts an unfair disadvantage if I start bringing in my perspective of a movie when another student, I may have never seen that piece or heard that piece before, and I am, in that case, to go back to the previous term, I use blank slate with that, and I have to watch that. It's kind of like how we bring in, our own feelings about plots and things like that. So we just have to be careful.
Well, I always think
but it's justified.
About Shakespeare. I mean, those plays have been around for hundreds of years, and people have interpreted those characters in so many different ways. So I think sometimes a student's interpretation of something well known, but in a little bit different way, can be something admirable.
And I would also add on to that, what Linda's saying is, I think the interpretation, what's the point of it? So for instance, on the collegiate level, a couple of years ago, a team out of Texas did Fences, and it was two females. And they did the husband and the wife scene, and they actually won nationals with it. And at first, when I watched it on YouTube or wherever I saw it, because I wasn't there, but I saw it on the computer, I thought, oh, this is different. Two women doing, okay. I mean, are we going to have a lesbian feel? What's going on here? And as I watched it, it was a total different interpretation of the piece. And it really made you think different about gender. And because she actually portrayed the husband as a man. I mean, she was very masculine in her portrayal of it. And I no longer saw two women. I saw a male and a female. So I think it's when you make changes like that to a piece, what's the point of it? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to do? And I think you can do the same thing with humor. What are you trying to communicate? What message? And that's when that intro becomes extremely important in communicating that.
Okay, guys, I just wanted to make sure that I'm following the rules of the schedule. So we're pretty much finished. I thought it went really well as far as what I was hoping. I hope you thought you got something out of it. I just really like collaborating. We could all learn from each other. If I can give a summary of kind of my thoughts, listening to everybody, is there are so many different philosophies out there. Trying to find what works for you as a coach, for the performer, trying to experiment, play around with different ways to interpret. And as Dave and Fred and so many others said, really making sure it connects to what is the message that you want to send. I think that that's key. What are you trying to communicate? And I think that's what maybe speech comes down to. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.